This is how I like to dive Mission Point in Mission Bay, San Diego, California. Mission Point Park is located in the southwest portion of Mission Bay, right near the main channel. For the basic dive, you park here, gear up, and walk around to the beach here, and you'll dive along the rocks that make up Mission Point, and there's lots of life in there to see. It's a shallow dive, maybe 10-ish feet, and it's a dive I'll usually do if surf's too big in other parts of San Diego and I still want to get in the water. A couple of things to think about when diving Mission Point Park is the channel here. All boats either enter the bay or exit the bay through this location, so there's a lot of boat traffic there, and you're probably not going to want to be swimming in this area. I personally don't dive anywhere in the channel, and while I'm diving at Mission Point Park, I stay close to the rocks because of the dangers of boat traffic. I have seen freedivers before along the rocks in the channel. I don't know what the rules are. I don't plan on diving there, but you might check with the lifeguards if it's something you're thinking about. Another thing to think about are tides. On an outgoing tide, water from the entire bay is going to be flushing out through this channel. During that time, you might feel some stronger currents on this portion. You won't feel it as much on the inside, but as you start to go around the corner here, you will start to feel it. If there is a strong current, you'll feel it more as you get further away from the rocks, so you're going to want to stay close to them. So keep that in mind. Most people say though they'd rather dive this on an incoming tide, as clean water from the ocean is being brought into the bay. Usually when I dive this, I'm just diving it when I can. Visibility can also be all over the place here. Some people report that the best visibility can be found at the high slack tide. This is the point between the incoming and outgoing tide when the water is moving the least. This is exactly what I found on the day when I came, and visibility was pretty good. The reality is, it's a very shallow dive. Everything you're going to be looking at is very up close. You're going to be looking at small little critters. So even if the visibility isn't amazing or that good even, you can still get really close to the things you're looking at and you can still have a lot of fun. Another thing you need to watch out for is people fishing here. I'll keep an eye out for them, and also every once in a while I'll come up and take a look. Okay, so I'm all geared up and walking from my car. You see the rocks right in front of me. Do not attempt to enter the water from those rocks. It may look easy, but it's not. It's steep, the rocks are slippery, and people break bones all the time trying to walk down them. Do not try to enter there with your scuba gear on, or at all. The tide was at about a plus 3 foot tide this day. It was incoming, and we were kind of close to the peak, so it was nearly a slack tide, but not quite. And we ended up having pretty good visibility, better than what I normally see here. Alright, so we just dropped down, not even that far out really. It's quite shallow, I mean like 5, 7, 8 feet here. But the visibility is decent. We saw a bunch of fish kind of swimming around in here. So you'll notice off to the left, there is the eelgrass. And that's where the spotted bay bass like to hang out that people fish for. And to the right is the rocks. So on the way out, you'll see that I spend most of my time in the rocks, looking in the little holes, shining my flashlight around, looking for octopus, lobster, different nudibranchs. So here's a giant kelpfish. They usually like to hang out in the larger seaweeds. And a Garibaldi, the California state fish. And a purple sea urchin. These guys feed on algae, kelp, and other decaying plant and animal matter. This is a giant keyhole limpet. The white part is a hard shell, and the black part is the fleshy foot. I ended up finding a shell from one of the keyhole limpets, so check that out. It's kind of crazy how small the shell is compared to the size of the animal. These guys kind of look like black surf perch to me. I'm not exactly sure though, so maybe you can leave a message in the comments. And this guy is one of the kelp bass. So as we're getting close to the tip of the little peninsula that makes up Mission Point, I can still see back to the beach that we came from off to the right. And then straight in front of us here, this is kind of where you might see people fishing from. And you can also see lots of gorgonians down here. I don't usually see these at La Jolla Cove or La Jolla Shores very often. They are there, but they're definitely more accessible here. So like I mentioned before, a lot of people fish here, so they're definitely going to find some fishing line down here, some lures. It's usually lightweight line that you can just break with your hands, but make sure you have a cutting tool with you just in case you need it. These guys are cool. This is a large species of a predatory sea slug. They'll actually feed on other nudibranchs. When I first saw this, I thought it was a large nudibranch, but it's not. So at this point, we turned our dive around and headed out into the sand and the eelgrass, a little bit away from the rocks. And we watched this sea star walking around. And a little bit past that, this sea hare. The sea hares are pretty cool because they feed on a variety of algae. You'll also notice when I zoom in, there's these little holes, little piles, look like little volcanoes. And I caught one here off the right there erupting. I don't know what it is. I don't know if there's some type of worms in there that are filtering through water or what's going on there. Then further off into the eelgrass here, I found this cool stingray just chilling, hanging out. And then we surfaced there and ended our dive. There you can see the beach. That's the same place that we started our dive. And that's the basic dive. Like I said, it's shallow. It's somewhere I'll go as a backup plan, or if I want to see a lot of life in a short amount of time. And you can even snorkel it if you like.